And I've got some very kind of crude graphic mock-ups right now. I'd love to show you guys maybe on a one-on-one basis. And again, just if you're up for it, please do email me. I'm just gonna put my email. Actually, maybe I shouldn't because this goes on YouTube. But maybe just submit a support ticket for me, and say, hey, I'd love to have some input on your divergence indicator, and I'll get in contact with you, and perhaps we can arrange a time, and we can have a little chat, and I can find out a little bit more about how you use divergence or how you'd like to use divergence, and I can share some of my ideas, and sort of see if we can make sure we're sort of building a tool in the right direction. So looks like I got a couple of you guys, like Edwin, Bob, Gary. Anybody else, just please let me know. Just go to our support again and just hit me up. If not, especially you 3 or 4 that sort of expressed interest, maybe I'll try to get in contact with you guys. Actually, I do have one sort of question right off the bat. I'm just curious about this. Like, how many of you guys actually will trade divergence using, not, I guess the typical use of divergence is, you take the sort of price swings of the highs and lows on your sort of price action on your chart and compare it to an indicator. Now, how many of you guys actually don't use the price action, but use, say, two separate indicators entirely? So that's question number 1. Daryl as well. Okay, that's great. Looks like quite a lot of you guys. So this is great. Okay, so the plan is to sort of build, I guess, a general tool again. It's going to be it's going to be a separate indicator, but it's also going to be integrated into BloodHound. And all of you guys that have expressed interest, I know you guys are all, I believe you guys are all customers already. So this will again just become included with the BloodHound that you've already bought. So no worries about sort of extra fees or that sort of thing. We're always trying to, again, put the best stuff that we have into our product, and Divergence will be part of that. So the other thing that I am working on is Fibonacci, and that is actually, both simple and hard at the same time. Fibonacci is, it's relatively easy to calculate the percentages and whatnot. But I guess the challenge is figuring out what everybody's different use of Fibonacci are. The thing that I'm kind of trying to explore right now is, do people use it on more than just price swings? I mean, I've heard people use it on highs and lows from previous days, weeks, price swings from different time scales. I guess again, I'd sort of love to hear what you guys and how you guys use Fibonacci, because Fibonacci is just it's just a method of dividing up essentially some sort of price length. But the challenge is figuring out which 2 points do people kind of measure those Fibonacci distances from. So if you want some input on that, again, I'd love to hear from you. I've been sort of just kind of searching around in traders forums and looking at what other people do, and it seems to be, there's some common ground, but there's a lot of variety too. And of course, I'd love to make a Fibonacci tool and a divergence tool as flexible as possible, to appeal to as many different configurations and different styles and flavors as possible. One thing I can't promise you, though, is we're going to try to make a divergence indicator that's kind of unlike anything out there in terms of flexibility. So I've seen a lot of stuff out there. Ironically, not a lot of professional stuff, and some of the professional stuff is sort of tied very closely to maybe a trading coach's particular system or methodology, which is great only if you kind of follow the way they trade. Of course, we're kind of more open, and we like to sort of make a tool that'll appeal to to different flavors of trading, because there's different ways, of course, of trading divergence. And so what I'm aiming to do is design kind of a tool that will let you configure your divergence measurements from when and where, and constraints and that sort of thing, kind of to your heart's content. So so that's kind of, again, what our current focus is on the development side. And just to let you know what's going on with 1.1, I'm literally just still waiting for the certificate signing authority to give us your certificate before I make it official. Just fixing various bugs, and some of you guys have been noticing that there's been an update recently. There's going to be another one probably by the end of this week. And hopefully, fingers crossed, if I get that certificate in time and everything goes well, we should be live with 1.1 next week, hopefully. Okay, so unfortunately, it's waiting on a third party, and we don't have too much control over that. Let me read some of the comments here. So Gary's saying that obviously Gary, he's very interested in divergence, and stating it's one of the most important things in trading. I definitely know there's a huge demand for divergence. That's why the attention on it. Everybody's got a sort of a different idea, of course, what is the most important thing. I don't pretend to sort of, again, we don't want to pigeonhole you into any style of trading and claim it's the, it's the only way to go. But the whole point is we want to provide you the tools so that things that you find important to your trading, it's available and you can use it. All right. Edwin comments that he uses divergence between indicators. No, because indicators are just fall in price. So divergence between price and something else. Okay, yeah. Likely it will be possible. The tool will allow you to use anything to compare anything to anything, and that includes price. I'm just kind of curious to see who would actually not use price. If it's built in, and if someone out there does use it, then so be it. But if no one does, I mean, it still does price versus anything. So. SLE states, I like to use price divergences against MD, I'm guessing that's MACD stochastics D, yeah, and K, stochastics D and K, and big on convergences. Convergence is all the same. So yeah, SLE, sorry, SLE, is your full name Sandra? I can't remember. But anyways, look, what I'm trying to build here is sort of a tool that will let you. Oh, okay, great, great, Sandra. So yeah, so what I'm actually trying to build is this configurable tool so that you can compare convergences, divergences, and you can make constraints on like how much the convergence or divergences are, how exaggerated they are. Like you can constrain it so they have to be perfectly aligned in certain ways, and or you can relax the constraints so that you can sort of allow a lot of different possibilities to happen. The challenge is more just presenting how to present that in an easy way for users like yourself to manipulate. It's kind of clunky, I think, if we were just to have people just type in numbers in a property grid, which is what typical indicator designers out there do. So what we're planning is some sort of graphical kind of interactive, very similar to our node kind of interface where we're moving nodes around. This would be what I'm sort of envisioning is this idea where you can kind of move lines and move kind of a mock representation of a swing pattern around, if you will. So that you can specify different parameters on it. So anyways, like, I know it's kind of atypical for software designers to sort of just, give away kind of what they're working on long before they're even, we're still in the prototype stage, I guess is what I'm saying. But just looking in the room here, most of you guys veterans, so I feel pretty comfortable sort of talking about that with you guys. So you know that you know, if you want to interact with me, kind of on a more with sort of a one-on-one input, you know, I'd be very happy to hear how you use or you'd like to see Divergence go. So please do hit me up with requests on the support form or support ticket, and I will get in contact with you, and you know, see if we can design a tool that you guys can use. Bob is saying, Daryl is saying he uses Divergence almost exclusively. Okay, so yeah, obviously, I guess we've got the right kind of priority here. By the sounds of it, there's a lot of you guys that are looking for Divergence, so this is definitely the priority at the moment. Randy asks, is there a changelog for the new update posted? Okay, not officially. Sorry, Randy. What I'll just let you know, a lot of it is just bug fixes. I'm assuming you're talking 1.1, the latest 1.1 update, and it's mostly bug fixes and sort of handling, I guess, odd exceptions that occur with solvers and whatnot when they start bugging out. You know, little things like, oh, I don't know, like say you've got a BloodHound template, you moved it to another computer, it doesn't have the same indicators on your machine as your old one did. Previously we wouldn't really handle that too well. For those of you that have experienced that, you know, I still think we can handle it better, but at least it doesn't, you know, it allows you the ability to sort of correct it kind of after it's all done complaining to you. You know, other things like the time session solver. Sometimes, you know, again, if you move it to another machine and you don't have the time session in there, it will, you know, previous versions would just crash. You know, now it sort of gracefully informs you that you need to sort of fix that. So most of it again is just bug fixes. So no major functionality changes in the last update, and same with the one that's planned at the end of this week. It's more bug fixes. Bob's saying Divergence. I use price and cumulative market data delta retracements. Interesting. Okay. Bob, I'm just curious. Is that cumulative market delta retracements data? Is that basically can that be found through an indicator, or is that kind of another bar chart, or what is that exactly? I want to compare price retracements with GAMI, cumulative market delta. Oh, okay, with GAMI. Okay, so I get you're talking about the GAMI indicator. Okay, that should be possible, yeah, without much issue. Daryl saying, therefore, it's what I need most from BloodHound. Thank you very much for making Divergence a priority. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, we've got definitely a lot of requests for Divergence, so we're going to be working hard to satisfy those requests. Javier says, will these Divergence tools interact with other BH nodes? So yeah, the idea is it's going to be fully integrated with BloodHound, and most certainly, you know, and I haven't got as far as figuring out how they will, you know, be represented, whether it be their own separate nodes, or they'll just, you know, be an indicator you can just plug right in. You know, well, I mean, sorry. At the very least, they will be indicators you can plug right in, obviously. But we'll likely have some kind of, I would say, more interface enhancements to make using Divergence with BloodHound a little easier. So I think what we're going to do is sort of take the strategy of we're going to develop, you know, develop it, get it out there, you know, and then refine it and iterate it. So, you know, I think once we have the indicator out kind of in the wild and people using it within BloodHound, we get more feedback. And honestly, it's very tough to sort of comment and think and say, hey, I want this, when you have no idea, like there's nothing in front of you to comment on, right? You need some sort of working, even if it's a working prototype, you know, so to speak. I hate to say that's what we're going to release, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it's a lot easier to improve and evolve something when when users like yourself have a you know, something in front of you that you can manipulate and work with. You know, before so that's kind of the approach we're taking is sort of rapid development rather than what used to be called waterfall development. DAW is asking, what about the math solver? Yes, I know that's a very important one. And ironically, it's not necessarily the difficulty involved with implementing a math solver. Like, that's actually fairly easy to do. The issue is more the interface side, because having a useful math solver will probably change a lot of things in terms of, well, I should backpedal. We haven't figured out a great way to present it yet, and whether it's going to be just it's going to be something that is a separate indicator, or is it just going to be built into the solvers? I'm sort of leaning to the former, but again, it's one of those things that it's definitely that's definitely on the roadmap, and I know. And actually, you might be the fellow that mentioned this, but I know there's pairs traders out there that really want the ability to calculate some sort of value based off maybe two different indicators or two different time frames or two different instruments. And being only somewhat familiar with pairs trading, I know that's a huge aspect of that. So the math solver is as well definitely on the list. However, that will probably be handled, well, not probably, that will be handled after Divergence. Again, we get a ton of requests, a ton of feature requests in, and we have to sort of pick and choose our battles. Unfortunately, we don't have an army of 20 coders or something like that. So we have to sort of just pick and choose which are the most vital and which are the most people are demanding the most. Mostly by numbers, and at least currently Divergence is sort of the top of the list, but we're slowly working through our way. And I apologize if I know Alfred. I just had a conversation with him as well, that he had some things that he'd like to see in BloodHound, and I know DAU as well, the math solver. It's not that we've forgotten about you at all. It's just that, again, we just have to. If I could clone myself and do all this stuff simultaneously, I would. But unfortunately, we just don't have that capability yet. But we're slowly working through everything that we deem important to put into the product. So I apologize if some people have to wait a bit to get some of their concerns addressed, but we are working towards it as quick as we can. Randy O, off topic. Well, Falcon incorporate position sizing. That's the idea. Yes. I don't want to really comment too much on Falcon, and it's just mostly because we don't have a time frame roadmap for that yet. Because all these kind of other things are sort of higher priority at the moment. Yeah, that's basically the idea. It will have elements in there where you can, do some very smart money management like that. Gary's asking a question: are we able to set either open, high, low, close on an EMA 14 comparison solver in BloodHound as the data input example? Input example, I want to go long, for instance, on an EMA 14 high, as opposed to the close of the EMA 14 data. Yeah, absolutely, that's possible. In fact, I will spare Zach the need to go through that, but I'll show you really quickly how that's done. And let me just restart here. So I'm going to blow out this, get back to some sort of semblance of a normal chart. All right. And so we have SI Chameleon, which is, and this is Gary, and we are planning on making this a little bit more smoother. But for now, this is what you have to do. Okay, so we'll go to indicators, get BloodHound up. So basically, he's wanting to use BloodHound, or he's wanting to measure the EMA using the high, not just the close. Right. So the way you do that is use SI Chameleon. So remember with BloodHound, anything you do, any indicator that you want to specify you can also specify, you can nest it. You can specify what kind of inputs you want to feed it. So all you gotta do is open up your indicator, okay, and I always say it's always get sometimes this mixed, but you start with your EMA. You want to feed in the high. So what you do is you use our Chameleon indicator, which essentially is just, lets you feed in highs, lows, close, bounds, that sort of. And instead of using add new, you just click this nest input button. Okay, and you notice now I've got the EMA with its input being Chameleon, which I'm just going to set to the high bounds, which is it's already set. So this is basically telling BloodHound, all right, give me an EMA of period 14 and feed it the high price, not the closing price. And SI Chameleon is basically that indicator that lets you just kind of feed it whatever you want, right? So if you look here at the plots, we can feed it in the close, we can feed in the highs, the lows, the median value, the mid bounds, the open. You're wondering why? Oh, why do you have estimate at the end of these? Well, actually, these are also averages too. So I mean, if you set the look back to 1, it's just basically looking at the the current bar, the current close, the current high, the current low. But if I set to 10, all these values now become SMAs, or moving averages of past values. So this means the last moving average of the highs, moving average of the lows, right? So if you want to feed this to an EMA, you just set that to 1, and that will just essentially feed in the high values to the EMA. So I hope I didn't. I hope that's not too confusing, but really it's like those math functions, like where you're taking the EMA again and you're just feeding it this input, right? You're feeding in the high values. Okay, so that's all that's doing. I realize it's, but eventually we're just going to have this ability where instead of having to do this kind of thing, you could maybe select from a drop down the close, high, low, open, whatever. That might be a little cleaner, but that's more or less for those advanced users anyway. So at the moment we just SI Chameleon to feed that in. Okay. All right. I think that's it for the sort of initial salvo of questions. So Zach's got some stuff planned. I'm just looking through the room here, and I'm noticing pretty much mostly veterans here. So I'll let him sort of run the poll. Maybe he can make a decision whether or not to do some. Like originally, we were sort of planning to do some beginner stuff for people that are new, but seeing how there's mostly veterans here, we might just move on to more advanced stuff. But it's really up to you guys. Okay, so if you veterans are okay with seeing some of the new stuff or the some basic stuff, we could do that. If you're new or if you don't mind seeing some advanced stuff, please don't get scared away. For one thing, it's again, this is the advanced stuff can be a little intimidating at first, but it's one of those things that after you've been using BloodHound for a little while, it's not so bad. All right, so let me pass it over to Zach, and I guess he can make that call if he wants there.
All right, welcome guys. Looks like we're getting a pretty good turnout today, so it's good to see all you guys. And working on getting my screen going here. All right, there you guys should be seeing my screen now. So, yeah, like Jeremy said, I don't really see any new. I don't see any new individuals here. If there are some new people, if you'd like me to cover, a few simple basics things, then I guess just type it in the chat, and I can easily do that. We got several questions from yesterday and the day before that I could cover in this workshop. otherwise, I'm prepared to kind of demo the function nodes in 1.1. So let me just give it a minute, see if there's any new people that want to speak up. And let's see. All right. Well, there's a good question. So I'm asked, what's the difference between slope and inflection? All right. So let me show that here for you real quick. Let me bring up the BloodHound interface. So, all right, so let me put the slope on here, and I'm going to put the slope of, let's see, I'll do the slope of the white SMA, which is SMA 10 here. So we add this slope, change the period there to a 10. Let me open this up a little bit more. All right, so the slope solver here is kind of one of our basic core solvers. So as you can see, when the white SMA line is rising, then BloodHound is giving us a long output. And when the slope of the line is falling, then BloodHound is giving us a short output there. So next, let's put the inflection in here. And the inflection, you know, if you're kind of unfamiliar with some of these terms, Wikipedia is great at explaining this stuff. I think even in some of my write-ups, I referenced Wikipedia pages for something like the logic nodes and stuff. It's good. But what the inflection is basically it's marking the reversal points. And so let me change this over from the 14 period to the 10 period. So that way it matches the white line on my chart. And so here's one that's easy to see. So you can see the line's falling, and right here on this bar, the next bar, it starts rising. And so BloodHound marks that reversal point with a long. And you can see over here that the SMA, you know, reverses. Its reversal point is actually on this bar, and the next bar it's sloping down, and so we get a short out of that. So that's what the inflection solver is. And let me also show you a new page, a fairly new page on our website here. All right, let me bring my browser over here. All right, so from anywhere on the website, you can go to BloodHound, go to Learn, and there's a Getting Started page now. So this will help step you, new people through kind of a guided learning process. All right, so we just put the quick start video right up there, and then the first section here, you know, is taking you through the tutorial videos, and then the second section here will take you into the videos for each of the solvers. So let me bring that up. And so, right, so these workshop videos kind of cover each solver there. So if you wanted to find out what the inflection solver was, you can skip down to here, and you can see this workshop here covers the inflection solver, and then this will link you over to that video. So, yeah, there you go. So here's the workshop video that covers that solver. Or another way, you can jump straight to a video for an individual solver is one thing. You can go to the documentation section, and so on the menu here on the right, you can see all the confidence solvers are listed, and so we could jump down to the inflection solver there. And you can see now down on, so up on top, there's a written description of all the settings, what the settings do, and then we can jump down to the video tutorial, and this is much like that workshop video page I showed you, except on this video it jumps you forward to the time mark of where I actually start talking about the inflection solver. So you can see how the YouTube time marker is, let me stop this, jumped forward all the way here to the 1 hour and 9 minute mark, so it'll start you right where I started talking about the inflection solver, so you don't have to watch the whole video to get to it, right, so it'll link you straight there. So, and then of course there's some examples here as well, some written examples with some screenshots to help you figure that out. Right, so I can click on that, and so on this one I'm using the stochastics, right, and I'm marking the reversal point of the stochastics. So this is the stochastics overlaid onto price. All right, so there's some references for you guys. And just in case there's some other new people that a little too shy to speak up, some other ways you can get support is on the support pull-down menu here. You can go to Contact Us, and from here, this is where you can submit your questions. And both when you submit your questions this way, both Jeremy and I get a notice about this, so one of us will answer you back. And also there's a one-on-one help, so you can book an appointment with me if you have a question, or if you're getting started. So if you are new to BloodHound and you're getting started, I would ask that you at least go to the Getting Started page and at least go through the video tutorials page here, so that way you have at least a minimum familiarity with the product before booking a one-on-one appointment with me, and then I can help you get going from there. So, all right, with that, let's see. All right, I see there's a question that popped up here. So, all right, Zach, is there a way to get a slope to print when it is a certain angle of degrees? For example, I only want to be, let's see, in a short when the 200 MA is sloping down at 140 degrees of an angle. Well, Gary, I kind of demonstrated this in an earlier workshop, but this is a kind of a good one to demonstrate. So with charting, there's no such thing as degrees. That's impossible, because the x and y axis are not locked. They're always floating, right? If price kept on going up, then the y-axis would get compressed, right? And so that would change your angle. So, for example, this right here is. Let me get this line drawn here. So this is fairly close to a 45 degree. We kind of beef that up. but what happens if I decide to do this? I want to see more data on my chart. Well, that's almost straight up. That went from 45 degrees to, like, 85 degrees or 80 degrees. So you can't. So there's no way to measure degrees. So mathematically, you have to default down to basically a tick-based slope, or a mathematical slope formula. So the way NinjaTrader calculates slope is the x-axis is locked at 1. So from one bar to the next bar always has a value of 1. And the only thing that is variable is the y-axis, and it varies by the tick price. But you can even lock the y-axis down by just saying a tick is a tick. So a tick is 1. So it doesn't matter what the price of the tick is. You can what's the term? Not equalize, but you can basically normalize every instrument that has a different tick value down to 1 again. So I always like to do things in a tick-based slope. All right. Okay, so now let's, with that explained, let's kind of address your question. So 140 degrees. 140 degrees. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by 140 degrees, because really you're either, I guess the way I look at this is, this would be 0 degrees flat, is 0 degrees, and then you can either, go up 90 degrees, or you can go down 90 degrees, but you can't go beyond 90 degrees. So, so I guess I'll try and answer your question with, like, trying to find a 45 degree slope. And here I go using 45 degrees. So this 45 degrees is a 1-to-1 slope. So we'll try and find a 1-to-1 slope. All right, so let's let me delete this inflection solver here, and we'll work on this. So I'm just going to think about this for a minute. I'll probably just kind of play around here for a minute. So let's see. So this, what looks like 45 degrees, is a 1-to-1 slope. So let's put this, let's see, at 0.9, and then put this at 1.1 ticks. And so let's see. So here's a little tick, guys, until we can get this resolved. You notice how that when you fill your values here into the parameters, that now the description field here for the setting updates. So you can see it says at 1.1 ticks. Sometimes it doesn't update. So what I'll do is I'll just click on another solver and then switch back over, and it gets these fields here to update. All right, so. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right, so let's put that to 1, and yeah, put that to 1.1. All right, set that to 1. Wait. Yeah, set that to 1. All right, set this to 0, set that to 0, set that to 1. Okay, so here, if we read the description, so we're less than 1 tick, I want a 0. I want a 0, and so on the output in direction, less than 1 tick, I want a 0. And actually, you probably don't want to use the against direction. So I'm going to set this to 0. We'll just work with the output in direction. So when we're at 1 tick, we want an output of 1. And when we're at 1.1 ticks, we're going to set it back to 0. So there is a little margin of error here from 1 tick to 1.1 tick. And so let's see what we get. And let's see. Visually, this would probably work better on a different instrument. Yeah, because I'm on the YM, which has a very small tick size. So let's switch this over to the ES and see how that looks. All right, so let me. I'm getting so spoiled with you veterans here. I'm kind of not covering the basics of my class, and so I never named my template. So let me go and name the template. All right. Let me change the day on here. So today's the 9th already. Save it. Okay. All right, let me bring BloodHound back up here. And all right, I'm going to adjust the grid line. This is going to look awful, but it's going to help visualize what's going on here. All right, so you can see I marked, so the horizontal lines are 1 tick apart, separation. So that way we can see, yeah, I'm just going to have to stretch this out here. And yeah, I need to add another SMA onto here so we can see where the actual data point is. So when you're trying to figure out slopes, here's a good little tip for seeing the actual value of the SMA. So let me set this to dots, and I think a 2 width dot will work just fine. And let me put it to 3. All right, there. Okay, so we can see the dot here on this bar is about halfway in the tick. Right, it's about halfway between the tick, and so is the next one. So we can see that this from this value of the SMA 10 to this one is almost, it kind of looks like it's nearly exactly 1 tick, and that's what's being marked. Let's take a look at some of these others here. The same here on this short. So, let me change the Z order here on this guy. there we go. All right, so now you can see the white dot, and so it's about in the midpoint, and this next one down is about in the midpoint, in between the you know, the gray tick lines. So we can see that's one tick of slope, and we have one other one I got marked here. And the same with this one. We're just below the midway. We're just below halfway between the two gray horizontal lines here. And this one looks about the same. All right. So there. All right. So let's see, Gary. All right. So Gary, I hope that. Oh, there we go. So Gary says or more. Okay. So Gary, if you want to do or one tick of slope or more, all we need to do is just adjust our output to match. All right. So what I can do is, if we want one tick or more, to keep it simple, I can set both of these to one tick, and then I need to set at one tick. Let me select off of here. There we go. So at one tick minimum, we get a 1. So at one tick max, we want a 1 again, and then greater than one tick, we want a 1. So there we go. So now we're marking all the areas here that have a slope greater than one tick. All right. Okay, let me set this back so it's not so obnoxious. And all right, 4 ticks is a point, so let's just mark the point. There we go. I would say, you know, a simpler way of doing it, if you just have one slope criteria, I would suggest just using the maximum slope, and need to put a 0 in there. I would just use the maximum slope. We'll set this to 0 there. So when it's at 0 ticks, we don't want an output, and then when it's at 1 tick, we want to get our output. All right, and let's see. Yeah, you know, Bob, let me go back to a previous question you had asked with Jeremy. You know, I do have a test chart that I've been working with GAMI stuff. And so one of these workshops I'll dedicate it towards working with the GAMI indicator. So, but I do realize that this is, you know, this is definitely would be an advanced class, and it would only pertain to very few customers. So that's kind of why I haven't gotten into it yet. But it is in the works. You know, I do like using GAMI. So, you know, on some of my personal charts, let me slide this over. You know, I like playing around trading with the ES, and you can see I have the GAMI chart down here, so I can see when we get these extreme volume spikes on the GAMI. So this is looking at cumulative delta. You know, so just to let you know, one of these days I'll dedicate a workshop to it. All right, so Gary. All right, so Gary's saying he knows how to do it on a tick-based. So yeah, so Gary, I guess if you want, what you'd have to do is just bust out a calculator and, you know, convert slope to degrees. There's probably a free. Oh yeah, there'll be. I know there's all kinds of websites. You know, when I used to do civil engineering, I used to use websites that had great converters on them that would convert you know, one that would convert 1 unit of measurement to a different unit of measurement. So that's what I'd recommend, Gary, is just find a website that has a converter on it and just, you know, convert from degrees to mathematical slope to see what slope you're looking for. All right, I see. So Gary, you're saying that 140 degrees is 430. Yeah, so 430 would be. So I'm assuming this would 12 o'clock would be 0, and you'd be going down about something like that. Yeah, something like that. So, yeah, you know, so if you can 430, let's see, so I don't have an analog clock, but it'd be something like that. So if that's like 40 degrees or 45 degrees, yeah, just find a converter and then find out what the slope would be. All right, so you would actually want to measure, you would want a horizontal line to be 0, to be your 0 degrees, and then you'd just be angling down, you know, about 40 or 45 degrees, and just find out what that converts to on the slope. So, you know, it looks like you probably are close to a 1 tick slope. So. All right, let's see them. So I got a bunch of questions coming in here. So let's get to these questions. All right, so actually back to Gary's question. So Daryl is asking, so a 1-to-1 slope equals 45 degrees. Yes, Daryl, it does. So, you know, if you're on a fixed grid system, you know, like I said, a charting platform is disastrous to try and demonstrate this because you can stretch the y-axis out, and you can stretch the y-axis out and the x-axis. So you really can't demonstrate it well, but yeah, so you know, one tick up and 1 bar across is a 1-to-1 or 45 degree slope. All right. Good. So it looks like I got Gary's questions done. All right. All right. So Rob's got a question, I think, here. All right. So let the questioner know there's an indicator on big mics called MA slope multi or something close to that. That will allow you to define the slope of a MA, but obviously not the degree. He might be able to visually match it on his chart by the degrees he wants. Just a suggestion you might relay. All right, thanks, Bob, or Rob. Sorry, thanks, Rob, for that suggestion there. All right, so once again, the indicator on big mics is called something like MA slope multi. So take a look at that, Gary. That might help you out. All right, so Randy, looks like Randy's got a comment. When using slope, it's a good idea to find a near ideal slope that you're looking for, then measure its move in bars and tick change, and use that. Yeah, so Randy's just kind of, I guess, reiterating what I kind of explained earlier, that yeah, when you're looking for slope, right, so you want to, I guess, start talking about or visualizing it in movement in bars across and ticks up and down. No. All right, thanks, Randy. So, Rob, did you have a question for Jeremy? If you do, just go ahead and type it in there, and I'll read it out there for him. And I know Jeremy, when he can, he monitors the questions during his workshops. All right, so Rob, looks like Rob's got another question. Any idea of a rough ETA when new documentation will be up for the new functions, logic nodes, etc.? Let's see. No, I don't, Rob. You know, I know both Jeremy and I will be tackling that. I do plan on starting to put together some videos and stuff. And in fact, since this workshop has been primarily questions, I think probably with next week I'll actually start covering. I'll dedicate the next 2 weeks or next 3 weeks covering the new logic nodes. So that way we'll have something up there on the website for new guys. So, all right. Let's see. It's 11:30, so I don't have too much time left. So I actually don't plan on starting covering the logic nodes today. Let's see. I think I'll go over a couple of couple of questions I had come in, and if I see some more questions come in, I'll address those as well. All right. So Daryl has a question. Any way to smooth the slope indicator to prevent whipsaw? Yeah, Daryl, you can do a double smoothing. So obviously, this is a 10 SMA, so you're definitely going to get a lot of whipsaw. All right, so let me kind of smooth that SMA out. First, let me tone this guy down. I'll set this down to 1, and I'm going to add another SMA on the chart here. Oops, down too far. And I'm going to take the SMA that's on there, and let's see, I'll tone it down to 1, width of 1, and I'll take this new SMA and I'll do an SMA of the SMA. All right, so I'm going to do an SMA 10. I don't recommend smoothing more than 2 or 3, because then it just, every time you keep smoothing something, it adds in a certain amount of lag into that. And all right, so for Ninja, there we go. So on the chart, I'm going to feed the SMA 10 into this SMA 2. All right, so I'm just waiting for NinjaTrader's dialog box to come up. There we go. Alright, so I have the SMA 10 being fed into the SMA 2. And, well, let me change the colors here. So to make this a little easier, actually, I'll make the actual SMA10 a little thicker again, and the smoothed SMA10, I changed it to, I thought I changed it to gray. Oops. Okay, let me just make sure I got things right here. Oh. Okay, there we go. So I'll stretch this out a little bit. All right, so that's how you would do it on the chart, right? So you can see the 2-period SMA smoothing the 10-period SMA. You know, smooth it out a little bit. And so here's how you would implement that into BloodHound. All right, so get my dialog back open here. All right, so I'm gonna delete this one, and I'm gonna make a copy of this before I modify it. And let me name it so we know what we're doing. SMA 10, and this guy, we'll do the SMA 2 of the SMA 10. All right, so we'll have to go into the indicator window and go find the SMA. All right, and we'll nest it in there. Okay, so I need to change the top one. I need to change it to the SMA 2 period, and the bottom one, I need to change it to the 10 period. All right, let me change the outputs here to 0, and we'll take a look. All right, let's see, that one's set to 0. Let's set to 0. Just making sure the outputs here match up and the slope parameters match up between the two. All right, great. Okay, so here, and let me shrink this up a little bit. So I have what I have turned on right now is just the SMA 10 only. And then let's turn on the smoothed one. All right. Let me mark a few things here. So we can see some differences. Right? So we got an up bar, an up bar, and another long output, and another long output. Right, and we had a short in between. And so we'll kind of look at this area where it's kind of chopping around. So there we can see some differences. So now we got rid of this long signal, and it's short, which kind of visually looks a little better because this still kind of looks like a down sloping, trend. And this definitely popped up a little bit, but you can see on this bar it was still, when we smooth it, we still got a short output from BloodHound, so the SMA was still sloping down. So, all right. So that's kind of that's a good advanced question there. All right, we have some other questions here. All right, I'm just kind of reading these questions that pop up here. Just a moment. Yeah, so Randy's kind of making a suggestion. We took about an hour to answer questions instead of moving on. Instead of getting to the function nodes for this workshop. So, but Randy, I'd just like to, you got a good suggestion, but also at the same time, these workshops really are dedicated towards answering your guys' questions. So that way we can, answer questions and let everybody kind of see the answers. But also, and I don't want to kind of alienate new people. Being new, we do realize that BloodHound can look a little daunting. Like the learning curve does look like it could be really steep unless you actually get into it, and then you kind of realize it isn't. It's not too bad. So I do want to keep these workshops definitely dedicated towards questions first. But yeah, I do agree in the sense that I do like to kind of get to the theme of the workshop as well. And when we do get enough a certain mass of people, I'm definitely going to start going to 2 days a week on these training sessions. My first thought was that basically I'd probably do like split them up. I'd do like a beginner's class and then an advanced class. But at the same time, I don't want to lock these classes down into any certain thing. I do like to keep them open and flexible to whatever the needs are for the attendance in that class. So, but I think we're getting kind of close. Oh, Jeremy, let me know that I guess I might be cutting out. I'm not sure. Shoot, if I was cutting out, guys, sorry about that. And if you can somehow let me know, I'll try and repeat what I did. But anyway, so when we get to a kind of certain mass, I think I'm going to start doing some extra classes. And if I do that, I think I'll ask Jeremy to kind of send out a survey email to find out what days will kind of work best for doing that. All right. So, all right, thanks, Randy, for letting me know. So I guess my cutting out wasn't too bad. All right, so with that, let's see. Looks like I got through all the questions. And so let me kind of clear these out. And all right, so let me let's see. I'm just going to get through one quick demonstration for a question that we got the other day. So a customer had let me adjust the indicators on my chart. I'm going to set this in the background so it kind of fades out, and I'm going to add another SMA onto the chart. Wouldn't it be nice if NinjaTrader built a copy button in here so I could you could select a indicator you already have and just make a new copy instead of finding it. All right, so I have let's see, I have an SMA 10 on my chart. I have an EMA 55. Let me make this a little thicker so we can see it. And I'm going to make this a SMA 25. Actually, make something probably a little more standard. SMA 30. And I'll make this guy blue. And let's see, what blue do I want here? Alright, so the question was, this gentleman had 3 moving averages and he wanted to know when all 3 of them lined up. So, for example, he kind of wanted to mark this area on his chart where all 3 of them are sloping down here like this. So I can see how that would kind of mark. You know, you ever notice that when your indicators get into an extreme value, that usually is a good setup for a pullback? Alright, so look, you get all 3 of these moving averages sloping down pretty good, and then, right, and then boom, price pulls back. Actually, it looks like in this case price reversed to the upside, right? You know, so I can see how this could be useful in preparing for a pullback in price with this. You know, this is a simple analogy. You know, a lot of times if you're looking at the MACD, and the MACD gets kind of in an extreme movement, you know, those are kind of a sign to be watching out for a pullback. So in this example, we'll just use these 3 moving average lines here. Alright, so let's bring up BloodHound. And alright, so we're going to use the SMA 10. And we're going to use the 30. And we're also going to use the EMA 55. Let's switch this over. And since I kind of mentioned looking for an extreme, so let's kind of put some requirements in here. Let's see what happens if we try and go for a 1 tick. All right, so that's 1 tick. That is 1 tick and 1 tick. Alright, and so the next step is, well, I could leave them like this, in which case all 3 solvers are working in a ratio mode, right? So you can see we have this analog output here. Alright, so we do have, you know, the areas marked where the you know, the slopes of all these moving averages are at least 1 tick or greater. And they're being marked. If we want a cleaner look, then all right. So let's see, MA. MA alignment. Let me drop an AND node down here, and drop my solvers onto here. And and this didn't get, as you can see on the chart, this didn't give me the exact analog type output I was kind of looking for. And the reason why is, so what the AND node is, okay, so first let me explain. What the AND node is doing is it's taking the minimum value out of all three of these, and that's what it's plotting. Right, so so like on this bar here, let me mark it with an arrow. So on this bar here, you can see the 10 SMA is sloping down pretty good. The red EMA is sloping down fairly good, but the blue one is fairly flat. So this minimum, so this small output here is probably caused by the blue, which is the SMA 30, the blue line. And so that's what the AND node is doing essentially, is it's allowing the minimum value through and to the output. Right, so we're not getting quite the digital output from the AND node, and so if we wanted to do that, so if we wanted to get, you know, a digital type output on the chart, then what we have to do is go through and adjust the output settings here. So let's and I think this is what's going to do it here. Let's try this. Oh. Yeah. So here, this guy, the SMA 10, is my little guinea pig. All right. So we can see that the output now is either on or off. And so what I did is I set the at one tick to 0. And so that eliminated the interpretation between 1 tick of slope and 0 ticks of slope. Right, so now if I check the others, so this one I'd already set this to 0. Let me check this one. I'll set this one to 0. Alright. I can see the outputs either on or off. And then we'll check this, and there we go. So we have 2 bars. So there's our digital type output. We only have 2 bars that meet that criteria. And I guess I got lucky in picking the one slope, because it did kind of mark that reversal point. Interesting. All right, I see a couple of questions coming in here. So Xavier's saying, for a pullback, you could sign when the fastest of the 3 indicator moves out of sequence. Yeah. So I guess if you wanted to mark when this guy is out of sequence, Alright, so Xavier's saying, I mean, the fastest moves out of ratio. I think I understand what you're trying to point out, Xavier. So For example, when we look at the white SMA line, you're saying, I'm not sure if you're meaning like on this inflection point here, this reversal point, or just when the slope begins to flatten out. You know, maybe it doesn't look like I have enough data on my chart to really maybe find a better example. So let me put some more data on the chart. Or better yet, a 10 range. Let's let me knock this down to, let's say, a 4 range. Generate some more bars on the chart. Well, it looks like we need a 10 range in order to get a 1 tick slope. So put that back to 10 range and just put some more data on the chart. So as you can see that you know, depending on the bar type that you're using is also going to affect the slope of your indicators as well. Particularly, well, an indicator that is directly correlated to price. Well, Xavier, I'm not sure if this is exactly what you're what you mean, but let me kind of mark. Oops, wrong object. I'm going to mark it here. So let me kind of do a system that kind of marks this kind of condition. Let's see. Well, all right. Let me relax the slope conditions first to try and create a better better situation here. All right. Well, maybe this is just turning out to be a bad example because let me disconnect this guy. All right, and see what happens. Okay. So maybe this is the situation we're looking for. Right here. All right, so we can see the SMA 10 flattened out and actually reversed down, whereas the 30 and the 55 are still sloping up, meeting our half a tick, right? So if I connect this guy back in, all right. So let's say we wanted to get a short signal out of this condition here, right? Yeah, say we wanted to get a short condition out of that. All right, so I'm just kind of thinking about this for a moment. All right, I'm going to make a copy of this and all right, so all right, so we're going to look for the SMA 10 to be out of alignment. And so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to change, to do this, I'm going to have to change the outputs of these solvers a lot. So let me make a copy of each of these so I can modify the copies. And I think essentially to make this work, I'm going to reverse the outputs. Except, let's see, well, for the lack of a better name, I'm just going to call it the SMA 10-2. So let me drop these solvers on here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each of these solvers one at a time and set up their output to give me what I want here. Alright, so this SMA 10, so I've got a short coming out of it right here in this area that I've got marked by the ellipse. Next, I'm going to work on the SMA 30. Right, so right now in its normal setup, it's giving me a long, and I need to reverse that. So I'm going to use the against direction to change that output. Set that to 0. Actually, you know what? I can actually leave that at 1. And I'm going to have to do the same here. Oops. And I'm going to have to recreate those solvers. I think I might have noticed a little bug. So I'm just going to start from scratch with these solvers. Okay, so let me put these guys on the board here. Alright, so back to where we were. Let me get this SMA 30 set up. So I want a 0.5 tick. And I believe this is how I want it set up. And let me refresh the chart. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, so I think I have all these working the way I want them to. Let me plug these all into the AND node. And well, I wasn't quite sure if this is going to kind of work out the way I wanted it to, but you know, I did get a short out of you know, out of this situation here. So this short, let's see, you know, maybe I do need to set this to 0 to get this cleaned. Oh, okay. There's what the problem was. There was a 1 left in this output value. That's what was messing with it. Okay. And no, it wasn't. Yeah, so let me set these to 0 and set these up the way I should have from the beginning. All right. And oops. Set that. Nope. That is 0. Okay, 1, 0, all zeros. 1, all the rest are zeros. And with this guy's set up normally with indirection. So, alright. So there, that marked our warning condition of the faster SMA falling out of alignment with the other 2 indicators. But also part of that requirement was the other two moving averages still had to meet our slope requirement. So if I switch this over, looks like I'm having issues. I probably need to restart NinjaTrader. As you can see, it's not switching templates on me. Well, that worked. There we go. Okay. Just, I think what happened is just my slope sign got changed. And okay. Yeah, so there was the original condition, and we kind of wanted to get a warning signal when the fast period SMA, you know, fell out of alignment with the other 2. And this is the, so here's that, and let's see. All right, let me close BloodHound and see if that makes a difference. All right, so if I refresh the chart, it's updating. All right. Well, it looks like I found a bug on there. Isn't that great? Yeah, I updated to the 1.104 last night, and yeah, so it looks like I might have found a bug. All right, well, thanks guys for entertaining me through this. So, you know, Xavier, I'm not sure if that kind of was what you're trying to get at, and because there's technical issues here, kind of took me longer to get that figured out than it should have. But let me just kind of recap what I did. Essentially what I had to do is the SMA 10 is set up normal. Actually, oops, I think this should have been set to 0. And then what I had to do is that on the SMA 30 slope and the EMA 55 slope, I just had to use the against direction, which reverses the output, right, for both of these solvers. So, all right, well, I'm going to try and wrap this up, guys. It's after 12. And let's see, so Barry's got a question here. Let's see. Hi, I have an existing strategy that I have managed to add BloodHound to, but BloodHound takes over from the strategy. Example, I want BloodHound to enter the trade when the setup occurs, but the existing strategy to control the trade. Alright, so Barry, it sounds like you have a custom-made strategy. So I take it you're not using Raven. Okay, great. And so you want, alright, yeah, so you want BloodHound to give your entry signals into your strategy. Alright, yeah. So, you know, we've worked with a couple of people on this. Let me bring up our website here and kind of show you where to get that information. Alright, let's bring up this web page. Okay, so from the menu, Barry, go down to Learn BloodHound and go to the documentation section. And Barry, I take it that you do know how to program, because you will have to know how to code, or at least one of your buddies who might have helped you with this strategy. You know, whoever wrote this strategy for you can do this, because it's going to take some manual coding, right? And so down here, all right, so sorry, so let me restart this again. So BloodHound, Learn BloodHound, and documentation page. So we're on the BloodHound documentation. If you scroll down under the fully automated trading section, you'll see there's custom BloodHound strategies. And so if we go to that, then right here is a fairly detailed explanation of how BloodHound works. So that way, as a coder, you'll understand, you know, what the various BloodHound what the various BloodHound methods are, and what data you're getting out from BloodHound to work with, right? And you know, if you're kind of like a mediocre programmer, then you could start with one of these examples. So let me go to the example 1. All right. So here's kind of an example code 1, and there's an explanation here of how it works. And then there's a downloadable file as well, so you could download this and basically copy and paste the code out into your custom strategy. Right. So so that ought to get you going. Right. So you might want to read the description for, you know, example strategy 1 and example strategy 2. They're slightly different there. All right. And then so once you kind of worked with that, if you got any questions, just send them in to into our support contact us page, and Jeremy and I can help you with any little issues you might have. All right. So yeah, good luck with that, Barry. We'd be curious to hear how it works out for you. So I'd like to get that feedback. All right. Well, guys, thanks for entertaining me today. And so next week, the game plan is to cover the function nodes here. All right. So I'm just going to start with the top and work my way down to the bottom. All right. So great. Okay, guys, have a good rest of the week, and we'll talk to you later.